today. She's come quite a long way, and she got here in the end. So will you all please welcome Mary Tamm.
Get ourselves mic'd up. What do you tip it there? Can you all hear me?
Yes, I do. Is that fine?
Actually, it's so small I don't really need a mic, but never mind. I can project.
Right. Well, first of all, Mary, thanks very much for coming down. I hope you found.
Dedicating the flowers with it.
Hope you found it okay.
Yes, we had a little sticky moment at Goring, but we're all right. Thank you.
See everybody.
Hi.
As you'll no doubt be aware, everybody here will know a great deal about who you are.
Oh, good pun there. Right, Steve.
But what we'll do, we'll start off first of all by casting your mind back. You've obviously got a high-profile career in TV, stage, and film.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell me, or tell all of us, when you first started to get an idea that that's really what you wanted to do?
What, you mean being an actress?
Yeah.
Well, I think I was about 6 actually, and I don't know why I wanted to be an actress. My mother was an opera singer, and the house was always full of music and opera, and she used to teach as well, so I got all this singing lessons when I came home from school. I don't know where the acting started, because I think I did a school play when I was about 5, and I remember it very clearly. Enjoyed it, But I think all kids like acting, and then a friend of mine said, "Oh, I'd really like to be an actress when I grow up." I suddenly felt really jealous. I thought, oh, I'd like to do that. And that's how it started, believe me or not. It was something as simple as that. And then I was raised in Bradford, as you probably know, and I joined 3 amateur theatre groups. I did school plays, and I just, never looked back really. I never ever deviated from what I'd chosen at that age, which I think is quite rare actually.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, it is nowadays, because I work a lot with much younger actors, and often you'll talk to people, when you're standing around on set or whatever, and they say, oh yeah, well I was doing this, and then I just fancied getting into acting, and they seem to kind of drift into it, which is something that I find surprising, but I don't know whether it's just the way people are educated nowadays, they get a better education or whatever, but anyway, I knew from an early age, so I don't know whether I was lucky or not.
Did you have anybody, a lot of people I imagine will get into whatever career they end up doing because they know somebody, they've got parents or close friends. Did you have anybody at that sort of age?
No, nobody at all.
Did that at all?
Nobody at all. I mean, I was at a very academic school, and the headmistress was horrified that I wanted to become an actress, so that was it, the doors were all closed there, that was it. And my sister's a fashion designer, and my mother, as I say, was a singer, but she retired when she had her children, I suppose. And I had no help at all, no. I would have appreciated advice at certain points along the way. In a way, you see, if you don't have a backup in your family, it gives you a stronger incentive, I think, and your ambition is much more fine-tuned in some ways, and you can turn it to a positive advantage. But I didn't miss that kind of, advice. I know lots of kids who are, actors' children, like Julia Richardson, who's Vanessa Redgrave's daughter, or various other people. They've always got somebody to help with decision making, because that's the difficult part, when you decide, oh, shall I do this job, or oh, will it be good for my career to do this, I mean, I've just always worked and done everything without thinking, so I don't know again whether that's good or stupid. Probably the latter.
Obviously now and for many years you've got an agent, but in those early days, how did you first start finding work? Because it must have been absolute minefield trying to find something.
Yeah, well it was, the first 6 months, I went to RADA, I trained at RADA, and the first 6 months after I left, I was waitressing in a restaurant on King's Road, and it was so difficult to get a job. Obviously, again, because you don't have an agent, it does help to have an agent without doubt. And I finally managed to get into the Birmingham Rep, which is where I spent the first year of my career, so that was a very good grounding in theatre, doing various plays and meeting lots of very, very well-known actors like Ronnie Barker and Joan Sims was there. And they were lovely, they were just lovely. And it was funny actually leaving drama school and having done all these plays with 18 and 19-year-olds to suddenly be acting with real grown-ups. Instead of somebody putting on a false beard or something to play a dad, there would be a dad there, you think, oh, this is great. So I enjoyed that very much, and that's how I started, and during that time I did get an agent. And shortly after RADA, it's very difficult to remember the sequence after all these years, but I did my first movie. Oh no, I did a TV series for the BBC called The Dine Conspiracy, where I played Richard Beckinsale's girlfriend, which was wonderful, wonderful. Anthony Valentine was in it. And then shortly afterwards I did my first film, which was playing Rita Hayworth's daughter in a very odd film called Tales that Witness Madness. Anybody here seen that one? Oh, somebody's seen it.
Yeah.
Let's keep quiet about that one. It's bizarre. It's a bit of a cult film now, isn't it?
Is that the one where you get eaten?
Yes, I get eaten in there. Yeah, I get chopped up.
Yep.
And wrapped in
Herbs and
herbs.
that's it, and eaten in the barbecue.
That's right. Yeah, and don't get any ideas about that, please, because you've all got a very nice buffet lunch today. So I was originally cast, as I say, as Rita Hayworth's daughter, but then she left. She started getting the Alzheimer's, which I think she eventually tragically died from. And Kim Novak took over, so that was my first break into cinema. But then everybody always thinks that I kind of consciously made the decision to leave the theatre, or not do as much theatre and do films and television. But my ambition was always theatre. You're still laughing about that film. We'll have to do some pirate copies and sell them off. It's always out on late night television. But yeah, as I was saying, it was weird the way that my career just kind of happened in that sense, because I wasn't particularly ambitious to do films and television. It was always theatre. I always wanted to do theatre. But I think when you're at that age as well, this is where I was saying earlier, it would have been nice to have some real professional advice at that time. Somebody who would have said to me, "Oh, look, we must concentrate on theatre a bit more," because I had agents who all wanted to push me into where the money was, obviously, because that's what they do for a living. So they kind of say, "Look, do the films and television." And I mean, I'm not complaining, because in fact I was very, very lucky, because I think about a year after I'd done this peculiar film with Kim Novak, I was then cast in the Odessa File with John Boyd, which was a huge international movie, and put under contract to Columbia Warner. Excuse me. So I did 3 or 4 films with them and various other bits and pieces of television, and then Doctor Who came along some years later.
You've obviously worked with so many people in all the various bits and pieces you've done. Do you manage to stay in contact with a lot of them?
I do actually. I stayed in contact with quite a few. In fact, funny enough, John Boyd was at Pinewood recently, and we said hello because he knew I was doing a film on the next lot. I think this other weird film called The Darkening, which is after CD-ROM. Has anybody seen that at all? Anybody caught that on CD-ROM? No? Well, another great success story there, obviously. And that's going to be coming out on video as well. So I was doing that, and he was doing Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, and I kept hoping, I'm going to meet Tom Cruise. Hanging around the caravan thinking,
Did you?
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't. So I was very disappointed. But I mean, that was after a very long gap. We said hello, and that was it. I suppose what happens is that you do work with people quite intensively, and you get very close to them, and then you sort of keep in touch for a few weeks. But by and large, I think I've only got about 2 or 3 friends that I've met through the acting profession, and then the rest are either people I knew at RADA, which is also a very bonding experience. In those early years, you're all struggling along together. So I suppose no.
Well, I suppose you travel around a lot, and that can make it difficult.
Yes, yeah, it's not so much that actually. It's also that people are working in other areas themselves. And there's a funny thing about actors. It's like when you're working, you don't have time to see anybody, and when you're not working, you're too depressed to see anybody, and you don't want to ring up in case whoever you're ringing up has just got the most fabulous job that you'd kill for. So you don't bother. I think actors are very sensitive in that way. So it's just one of those things, I guess. Yeah.
You mentioned Doctor Who, and obviously it's the main reason why you're
Oh
here
yes,
today.
strangely.
Before you actually were you offered the part, or was it something that you looked
Well,
for? Or?
originally, see, my agent called me and said they were looking for a new companion, and my first reaction was just to say no. I wasn't really interested in the program. I wasn't interested in doing a long contract in television, because as I said, my ambitions lay elsewhere. And my agent then was Irene Dawkins, whose client was George Spenton Foster, who directed the first was it 4 episodes of, oh, I don't know, I'm not asking,
I
I shouldn't be asking you, Stevie's a policeman, you know, I shouldn't be asking. Anyway, George Fenton Foster was a client of hers, and somehow she managed to sort of get me very involved, because she said, oh, well, George is going to be wonderful, and the part's going to be wonderful, you know, she's not going to be one of these stupid little girls running around screaming, you know. She's going to be strong and on an equal level to the Doctor, and she's going to be a time lady, you see. And I think it's the first time in the programme that they actually had a companion who was a time lady on equal footing with the Time Lord. So, oh, well, yeah, that sounds all right. And they sent me a script. First script looked okay. So I had to do a screen test then, you see, with Tom Baker. And there were, I think, 200 girls up for the part. And they weeded out 6 of us, you know. And we all had to trot in and do a scene with Tom, who, as you know, is very unpredictable. So George Fenton Foster took me to one side and said, look, he said, Tom's getting a bit bored. He said, what you should do is when you're saying the lines, don't do the moves that are in the script, just go and sit on his knee. I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do that. So I was getting even more nervous. Anyway, Tom was sitting on his chair and saying these lines, and I was talking to him, and I just gathered up enough courage to walk over when he suddenly jumped up on the chair and started waving his arms around. So I never did get to sit on his knee, but I did get the part, so who knows,
You
maybe.
obviously did something right.
I always did something right. Said the lines in the right order. So yeah, that was, and it was exciting at the time, because the press made a huge thing out of it, you know, they came round to my flat and photographed me with bottles of champagne, and you know, it was kind of nice, the razzmatazz, and I did enjoy the work. I mean, I did get into the part on the programme very much when I was doing it, and after 6 months, I think it was it 6 months on screen? It must have been, because I actually did a year's work in well, you know, with filming in the studio. They asked me to do another year, and by that time, you see, although they'd started off with this, you know, strong lady premise, the scripts had, by the end of the season, deteriorated again to this, you know, little girl lost running around. And I realised, in fact, it's not the fault of the writing, it's the fact that it's a half-hour programme, and you have to get a lot of information into that half hour, and because there's like this very, very bizarre science fiction element to it, somebody has to be there to kind of ask the questions so that the audience understands what's happening, you know. And I think that's why the companion always is written in that way, because you really do have to have somebody who's like a sounding board for the audience. So I thought, I don't really want to do this, you know, for another year. And then I think it was Graham Williams, yeah. Was it Graham Williams, the producer? Yeah. Yes, thank you. I'll just ask you if I need any information. He said, well, look, you know, just between you and me, Mary, and half of the BBC, Tommy is thinking of leaving, and would you be prepared to stay on, you know, even if Tom wasn't there? And maybe, you know, I think he was trying to dangle a bit of a carrot, actually, but there might have been a possibility of the BBC eventually thinking about having a female Doctor Who. But I think I wouldn't have been it. I think what they would have done was, if Tom was leaving, they'd have brought in a Doctor again that made my character a bit stronger, and then maybe the questions could have been kind of shared. You know, there's questions that the viewers like to have answers to. But it didn't work out, so I did say no, and they kept saying, you know, is Mary going to come back? And that's why I never had a regeneration scene, which was quite disappointing, because, I mean, the next time you saw Romana, she was Lala walked, you know, there was no explanation as to why she changed. And a lot of fans, you know, over the years, especially when it happened as well, have written to me and said, why didn't they have this regeneration scene? It's because really, till the last minute, the BBC really didn't believe that I wasn't going to come back. Although I'd said no, my agent had said no, you know, so that was a bit of a disappointment. But as I say, I love doing the programme, it's great fun, and I think it was enough, really. Years working it was enough.
In your case, it's perhaps slightly different to a lot of other actors and actresses, because you were very well established before.
Yes, I think that made a difference.
Did you find afterwards that the tag of being Romana on Doctor Who hung over? Obviously, even now, 20 years on, it's still very much hanging over you. Did you find professionally getting other work did that stand you in good stead, or did it actually close a few doors for you?
I think it's closed a lot of doors in various areas over the years, but then the strange thing was that after I'd finished Doctor Who, about 6 months later, I was asked to do a 3-part TV series, again for the BBC, called The Assassination Run, and the director, Ken Hanlon, is Australian, and he didn't even know that I'd been in Doctor Who. So it didn't affect that, and often when I go out for films, especially American movies. The directors have not heard of it or not seen it. But I think there is a little bit of snobbery affected, by it in this country. And I mean, I couldn't actually say, oh, I didn't get this part because they thought I'd be the Doctor Who girl and I couldn't play that. But I can sense that sometimes, there are parts which I feel, they might just think, oh, well, no, she's very good at playing aliens, but can she play a real person, type of thing. There's that kind of attitude that goes on, so I'm sure it's detrimental, but it's happened much more with some of the other companions who really hadn't been established before. I think because I'd been established before Doctor Who, as you say, that was the advantage, but I know...
Your CV had more than one line on it.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
It certainly did. And I do feel sorry for some of the other girls because it's really been a kiss of death, in some instances. Because if you use it as a stepping stone to fame, it's not going to work because it's such a one-off program, and the casting directors, unfortunately, are fairly short-sighted. They'll see you doing one particular part, and then they'll want to cast you in that part again and again. And unfortunately, they don't have that sort of breadth of imagination to cast against type. So.
Before you actually took up the role, did you speak to any other artists who had performed a similar role to yourself and get a little bit of an idea of the kind
No, I should have done you, Steve. I should have done that. I didn't. I just couldn't fit. Well, I knew Louise had done it before me, and Louise and I were at RADA together, and I do admire Louise as an actress. You see, I mean, she's another actress who actually hasn't been hampered by it very much. And that kind of gave me hope, because I'd always thought, oh, she's done some good work, and she's been at the RSC and stuff. So I didn't bond ring anybody, because ultimately you can only make your own decision. And I think that was kind of like a bit of a reassurance, because Louise had done it before. Yeah.
Did you find, were you quite amazed, perhaps not before it was actually broadcast, but once you've been seen on the screen, that this phenomenal thing would hang over you for so many years? Because some of the work you've done, this is probably one of the major things that you're remembered for, even though it's just 1 year in your life.
I know. Well, I didn't expect that. I mean, Tom warned me. He said, oh, you're going to be absolutely inundated everywhere you go, pestered broadcast. In fact, I wasn't. I think I've got a very good way of... You can get very hung up, about watching yourself, and sometimes I think you might do things yourself which you don't like. You might have a little mannerism or whatever that other people think is good and find attractive, but you hate, and so you stop doing it, and then you're kind of frozen. You don't move your head, or you don't use your hands, and you're all sort of seized up. So for me, it does not work. It does not work at all. But I do record all my stuff really for as a showcase kind of thing. So that's the reason and especially with Doctor Who, it's just such a nice memory to have now, because it's so long ago, quite honestly, that when I watch it now, it is like looking at another person. I think, oh gosh, was that really me? Was that me? So yeah, I do and I don't.
Bringing more up into more recent years, what sort of projects have you been involved with very recently, or are you in actual fact working on at the moment?
Well, I've just finished doing London Bridge. I don't know if you get it down in this area, actually. Do you get it? Oh, so that's.
I've seen you in.
Oh, have you? Did you watch it last week?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, you see, I tried to record it, and we've just moved house, and my video recorder wasn't working, so I haven't got it. But it's on next week on. Is it Monday and Wednesday? It comes out. Yeah. Monday and Wednesday, London Bridge. That's the most recent, and then I'm about to do a theatre job in September, which is a tour of a Terry Johnson play called Dead Funny. Any of you know it? It's a very, very funny play, and it is actually coming to Horsham, which is not a million miles away. So I'll let Guy know when it's on, and I expect to see you all there.
You've got 64 altogether.
Well, thank God. Get down to Horsham. But no, it's not just because I'm in it, but it's also a very, very funny play. It was in the West End with Zoe Wanamaker. So I'm playing Zoe's part, which is the most wonderful, wonderful part. I mean, recently, of course, you all know about Brookside, because I did that. Oh, actually, not that recently. I think I left about 2 years ago. I think I'll just ask you what I've been doing recently. You can tell them. Yeah, and that was like another big thing. I mean, comparing it with Doctor Who, there was actually much more feedback from Brookside, and I think I was in it for about 18 months eventually. It was meant to be 6 months to start with, and they extended it to a year, and then ended up doing 18 months. And there's much more feedback from that than I ever got from Doctor Who. So that was again strange, you know, after so many years to be recognised on the street all the time, and get the fan mail again. And often, you know, I get fan mail from Brookside fans who are also Doctor Who fans, and vice versa. So a lot of Doctor Who fans actually started watching Brookside because now they're hooked. They're still watching it. I've got something else coming out, which is a very bizarre Warner Brothers television series called The New Adventures of Robin Hood. Have any of you seen that on a Saturday morning? Yes, yes. Oh, quite a few of you. Isn't it weird? Isn't it?
It's a strange series.
It is strange, because what they've done is they've got the theme of Robin Hood, which we all know, obviously, and they've kind of brought it up to date. So, like, some guy's wearing one of those fabulous, you know, medieval pendants, and then he turns it round and it's a death ray, and he zaps somebody. Like, you think, where is that coming from? And the BBC wouldn't buy it because they said, oh no, we're not having our wonderful old traditions and legends messed around with. So it's on Channel 5. Saturday morning, 9:30, and I think my episode is coming up very shortly. And I play Robin's wicked Aunt Alice, who actually was in the books. Did any of you read the Robin Hood books ever? Quite an interesting thing to do. And that was in Lithuania, so I did that, yes. It's all filmed down there.
Did you find,
it was all right.
with a part like that, obviously it's a relation to the main character. Is that sort of, did they mention to you that there's an opportunity to go back?
They do want me to go back, Steve.
They do.
I've been strangely unavailable. Strangely unavailable. I mean, it was all right, but it was a little bit sort of bleak.
Yeah, tried it once, didn't like it.
It was all right. It was all right. I probably will go back if I can take a friend and you know, do a bit of sightseeing perhaps. But it was quite a grueling schedule again. I think the series actually is running for about 5 years, and it's been shown in America. It's gone down very well there actually.
All these locations and wonderful places that you must end up going, how much of them do you actually get to see? Particularly, you mentioned Brookside, that throws out episodes at a colossal rate, I imagine. And
well, there's not that much to see in Liverpool.
No, well,
everybody's here is from
that's
Liverpool.
not
I
the
love
best
it. I love Liverpool.
But
No,
how much
not much
of your actual time is taken up?
It depends. You see, funnily enough, on Brookside I did have a lot of time with them. The great thing was that I do like Liverpool, but you know, you can like do it in a week. You see the cathedrals and you see the art museum and gallery, and that's it. But the nice thing was, when I was working up there, was I used to take trips over to Yorkshire, where I'm from, and see all my old school friends. So that was nice actually, because usually I only see them about once every 5 years, and it was nice because I pop over every couple of weeks or something. So it was fun. But as you say, most locations you don't get time. I mean, I think in Lithuania I did have quite a lot of time on my hands, but I would rather not have had the time. I'd rather have done the work, because I was out there for quite a long time. But it varies, and you know, as an actor you kind of get used to very quickly finding out, you know, where the, I don't know, cultural centres are, nice restaurants, nice theatres, cinemas, and you sort of do your own thing. You know, you have to be quite self-contained. You know, it's no good if you miss home and always want to be running back. You know. I'm a bit like that, I must say. I didn't really like going away from home. I didn't enjoy staying in Liverpool, not because I didn't like it there, but it was quite difficult being away from my family during the week and just seeing on weekends when I was tired, you know. So I was quite glad when I came to an end.
Out of things such as theatre and film and TV, which of those organisations looks after you the best, and what I mean is, you know, the classiest hotels,
right,
the
films.
best food.
Films, definitely, and commercials, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Talking about food, because we once went on this holiday to Crete, and I had to fly out literally the night we arrived to the south of France. And I mean, they just treated us like royalty. You know, it was champagne, lobster every night. I was only there for 3 days. Nothing was too much trouble. And yet, you know, to talk about this Warner Brothers thing again, the contrast there, you know, you sort of arrived late, there was nobody there to meet you, just somebody to take you to the hotel, and then somebody would ring in and say, well, look, I'm sorry about the hotel, we couldn't book you into the other one, so you just be here for a couple of nights. Is that okay? And it was like complete hellhole. It's just awful, awful place. I mean, I know Lithuania isn't very sophisticated, I didn't expect a lot, but it was really grim, you know. But I think on the whole, it depends really on the budget. You know, you can get a TV series, for instance, I did the first episode of The New Professionals, which was coming out, I think, in September. I'm not sure about that. You all remember the old Professionals, don't you? Anyway, we've got the music, we've still got the music, and I'm in the first episode. Sorry?
And Lewis Collins.
And Lewis Collins. Well, you see, Lewis, funny enough, was asked to play the part of the older guy. What was his name?
Cowley.
Cowley. And he really wanted to do it, because I think it would have been great to have him come back, you know, playing Gordon Jackson, was it?
Yeah.
Gordon Jackson's one. But they didn't offer him enough money, so he didn't. So they've got Edward Woodward doing it, who I think is quite good. And the young guys in it are very, very.
Who are the two new ones in it?
Sorry?
Who are the two new ones in it?
I don't know. I'm sorry. They're unknown. I don't think you'd have seen them. One of them's Canadian, and the other one's a Brit, I think. Yes, I think he's British, but he's doing an American accent, which is very confusing. And there's also, you know, for the American market. And I think there's also a girl in it, but she wasn't in my episode. So I think she's Eastern Chinese, something like that, and she's doing all the martial arts bit, you know. So I'm glad they've got a girl in it, because it's not just going to be the two guys in cars. But going back to it, that was big budget. So it depends on the money, you see. I mean, on this they send the car to pick you up, and you know, they give you a caravan, and you get your lunch brought to you, and all the rest of it. But if it's low budget, you drive yourself to the location, you know, you queue up with everybody else for the lunch, nobody brings you your lunch to the plate. So it just varies. And the business has changed a lot, you know, it doesn't matter now who you are or what you've done. You just have to muck in sometimes, you know. And there's also a film which I did a couple of years ago, which was very, very low budget. I mean, I was practically doing the makeup and costumes myself on that, believe you me, because there was just no money. And you know, you can't expect to be treated like a big movie star if there is nobody there, you know, to be able to afford it. And that's also coming out this year. That's a film called Night Swimming. And there's also something coming out for Anglia, another film called Life is Sweet, or The Sweet Life, one or the other. No, that was a Mike Lee film, wasn't it?
Not Life is Sweet.
Life is Sweet, so it's not that one. No, it's The Sweet Life. I'm glad you're there.
So, obviously, you've been keeping very busy lately.
Yes,
what
I've
future
been very
projects
busy.
are on the horizon?
Well, another trip to Lithuania. I can't wait.
You're going to have to go then.
Well, I think I will at the end of the day, because it's also a very good showcase. I mean, the series, as I say, has been very, very popular in America. It's on the West Coast, it's on the East Coast. You know, I've had fan mail from it already, because it isn't dissimilar to Doctor Who. Or maybe you might disagree with me. It is, it really is.
It's completely different.
It's completely different. But there is that science fiction element, and I think a lot of sci-fi fans are enjoying it. It's also very much orientated for kids, you know, like Doctor Who was. Quite scary at the moment. So it's a showcase, you know. I've got to think about it in those terms. If I play a bit hard to get, they might write the part up even more, you know, and give me some real action scenes to do.
More money.
No, there's no more money in it. No more money. I've tried that one. I've tried that. They've just said no. And it wasn't a lot to start with.
Obviously, you've done.
It's always the wrong time. It's always like something else that I possibly can't turn down. I mean, you know, you probably assume, okay, then maybe I really do want to do the film work, and it is the case sometimes. But I'm feeling now that there are still some very good parts that I haven't played in theatre, which I'd love to do. And I think that's really where my ambition lies in the future, because this tour's coming up in September, which is really very, very good part. And as I say, you know, maybe things will happen from that to get people to come and see it, or at least it's on the CV then. You see, for an actor, it really does look bad not to have regular theatre work on your CV, because all casting directors and directors think, oh well, she's not really taking her profession seriously, you know. In this country, certainly. And there is a kind of snobbish thing, but I think it's right in a way, because it is the hardest thing to do. And it is where you really, you know, learn your craft, or you practice your craft to me the best. No, you've got to get it right first time, and you learn to change your performance, and you learn to adapt it, and you keep going, and it's a wonderful discipline. I mean, it's terrifying, I have to tell you. I'm absolutely petrified before I go on stage. Just thinking about it makes me feel jittery, but it's great once you're on there, and having that live audience, you know, is absolutely fantastic.
I was going to say, with a live audience, presumably you get sort of an instant feedback from them?
You do, you certainly do, and it's different every night. You know, I did a play, talking of Gordon Jackson, which were earlier, I did a play with Gordon in the West End called Cards on the Table, which was an Agatha Christie piece, and that was really mindless, you know, because it isn't really great theatre. And I did that for a year, but every night it was different, and every night you could find something different to do with the performance. And that's where I think the training is unique, because you don't learn that on film or television. I mean, you can do you know, a scene and do so many different takes, and you can make every take slightly different, but it's just, you don't somehow have the concentration because you know that you can do it again. And with theatre, not knowing that you can't do it again gives you that little danger, and I think it just draws out more creative juices or whatever you like from.
Well, what's the longest role you've actually done? You've mentioned that you do several performances of one thing. Presumably it would have to be theatre. How many times have you redone the same thing? What's the longest?
A year.
A year.
That was in the West End. This was the play I was telling you about.
And
In
that one's
theatre,
been how many a week?
8 performances a week. I never worked it out, actually, how many performances that was. We came down to Brighton with it. I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't suppose any of you ever saw it. No? Never mind, it was a long time ago.
It will be elsewhere.
It was about 16 years ago, this, I think we came to Brighton. But I suppose the longest television, obviously, was Brookside, playing the same character. But again, a soap's different, because you're not doing the same thing every week, and it's exciting in a different way, because you get a script, you know, say on a Monday, you come off the train at Liverpool, and you walk into the office, and they hand you these scripts. And it's like opening a little Christmas present, because there's all these scenes, you know, what your character's going to be doing, and you think, oh great, this has happened to her this week. And, oh, I'm really glad that she's not going to do that, because she said last week she might. And it's wonderful to do that as well. I really, really enjoyed that. I really love working on the soap, because it's fast. You know, you never get bored. Sometimes quite a
You
lot.
play it your own way, of course.
Yeah.
But are you able in something like Brookside to say, I want my character to do this, or can you actually put in some quite strong ideas?
No, not on Brookside particularly. I mean, the thing that I was thinking was, you know, was with Doctor Who when I worked with Tamm. He's very good at changing the script. In fact, I think we've changed every single scene that we ever played together. And I didn't mind that at all. I think sometimes, you see, in Tom's case, he'd been playing a part for so long that he needed to, you know, tinker around with some of the lines, because he really knew what the Doctor would do and what the Doctor wouldn't do. But on Brookside, I mean, I remember one scene that I had, I think it was with Anna Friel, who was now doing very well as well. And she said if instead of but. It was just a sentence, and I think she just got one word wrong, and they let the scene go, and next week the producer made them reshoot it just because of that one word. Mind you, he did have it in Fran. Poor girl, he didn't like it. But things like that, I think, are really so petty, you know, just to change one word. Sometimes you can, I mean, like on the professionals, I did quite a lot of changing, not because I wanted to say it in a different way, but it just sounded better, you know, when you're talking to someone and you say it in a naturalistic way. You can't always say it in the way that the writer's written it. And nobody minded, you know. In fact, on most things they do encourage it. It's usually when you've got the writers hanging around, you know. And on Brookside, for instance, they didn't tell me this at first, but what the writers do is they watch you. They sort of sidle up. I mean, I didn't even know who they were, and they sidle up in the canteen and watch you, and they sort of eavesdrop on your conversations, and gradually you notice that you were in character, as you, say as me, Mary Tamm, not me, Penny Crosby. They were bringing in little phrases and things that I'd say, which was...
In the canteen.
Well, another packet of chips for me, lovely. But no, it was weird, and apparently this is what they do. So I like that. I like that because, again, it means that you are working with the writers, but not in a direct way. And I think that's why the programme works so
You're perhaps
well.
not controlling the story, but you're
Oh, you
controlling...
do, yes, you do have an input. So you did ask about whether I had input, and that is an indirect input, you know, because I think they don't really encourage actors to have any opinions of most television shows. That's the way they can get around it.
How do you manage to fill your mind with all the lines and various things so quickly, and then forget it and move on? Because it must be...
I don't know, Steve.
You just...
That's no idea.
You've just found a way.
I don't know how it happens. I really, really don't. It's a mystery. I sometimes wonder myself, but it just happens.
You've just got a knack.
No, I think it's just experience. Actors just learn lines, you know, that's what they do for a job.
And how do you actually go about it? Do you read it or read it out loud or?
Well, on Brookside again, I was sharing a house with Anne Friel and Sandra Maitland and Gabrielle Glaister, so we all used to go through each other's scenes all the time, and that did become a bit confusing, because sometimes the next day I found myself saying Anne Friel's lines, and I think, oh, where did that come from? But most of the time, yeah, it does help to say them out loud. Sometimes I just read them with a script over it and read down, and then as it's covered up, I try and visualise what the next line will be, but that is actually learning it photographically, which isn't as good. Because then when you're doing it the next day, you see the page and you see where you've turned over the page. You sometimes have to learn them like that, because there just isn't time, you know. You literally sometimes get onto the set at 7 in the morning. You'll have learnt, say, 6 scenes, and the producer comes in and says, oh, we've changed those scenes now, Mary. We've got 3 new scenes for you to learn, and they're shoved into your hand, and you're thinking, oh my God, I've got to do them in half an hour. In half an hour. So you're sitting in makeup, you know, sort of trying to put your mascara on and look at the script at the same time. So that's tricky, but even that you get used to. Even that you get used to, which is extraordinary. So I think it's just, I don't know, it's pressure. Pressure makes you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. You know. So that's what it is, I guess.
Have you done anything in your career that in hindsight you would rather have not done? Or any sort of embarrassing things?
Oh, plenty. I'd say all of it, actually. No, just a little joke there, just a little joke. Not really. I'm not a great one for regretting, because I live very much in the present. I don't look back very much. I don't actually look forward that much either. I know things are going to happen in the future, but I don't think about it. I'm very much a sort of living in the present day sort of person, and I don't really think there's any point in regretting anything, because you can't do anything about it, can you? I mean, what can you do? Nothing.
Well, nothing.
Not a lot.
Can't do much about
Not
it.
a lot, unless you've got your own TARDIS, of course, but we haven't.
And if you did, you
I'd probably miss my way, actually. I'd end up in Goring on sea.
Okay, well, time is pressing on, and what we'll do is a little bit of an interview tradition, I understand.
Oh, is that a biscuit tin?
I think it's a video tin.
Oh, it's nice though, isn't it?
No
You
biscuits.
could keep all sorts of little bits in there, couldn't you?
There's a few rather obscure and interesting questions in here. If you perhaps delve in and category, no picking.
Yeah. Do I get a prize? Do I get a prize as well? Right. Oh. Oh, that is interesting. Yes, well, I'll have to think about this one. It says, what do you think has been your most life-changing decision? Can I have about 2 years to think about
You come back to that one. You can pass.
No, I won't pass on that one. Is it been written by one of the people here today?
No, I wrote all these out yesterday.
Oh, you? Thanks a lot, Steve.
Well,
Now
you
it's
picked
all
up plenty of others.
I did. Well, what do you think has been your most? Well, it's an interesting question, because I don't really feel that I'm not a great decision maker, in the sense that if I'm confronted with a decision, I don't think, oh, what's going to be the best thing to do, what's going to be the worst thing about the aspect of this. I tend to be instinctive. And if something does change my life, I never look at it as a life-changing thing. I just see it again as a kind of way, a path that I've gone down. But I suppose, career-wise, I mean, I know I keep harping back to Brookside, but that was quite a big thing for me to do. A, because it was taking me away from my family for so long. In the 25 years that I've been an actress, I've never actually left my family or my daughter for longer than about 10 days. So this was a big decision. And I wasn't very happy in the beginning when I was there, to be honest, because I really thought, oh, look what I've done, you know, I've now... Because I had this 6-month contract, and within a week, the producer had called me in and said, look, Mary, I know it's a 6-month contract, like, but what about doing a year? and I want your decision in half an hour. You know, literally, and it was very...
It wasn't the best time to ask.
No, it wasn't the best time. So I plunged straight into it. I rang my husband, and I rang my daughter, and I rang my agent. And they all said, oh, yeah, and I thought, oh, that's nice, isn't it? They want me to do it for a year, thanks a lot. So that was the biggest, because I think I was so frightened of the unknown. But in retrospect, it was one of the best decisions I've made career-wise, because literally, since I've left, I have not stopped working. And I did have quite long gaps before, even before Doctor Who. I mean, I remember once I was actually out of work for 11 months and didn't even have an interview in that time. I mean, I didn't even get asked to be seen for a job in that time, and that's a hell of a long time for an actor, pardon my French. So I think Brookside probably was life-changing in the sense that it changed my career. It's put everything, or it seems to have done, touch wood. It seems to have put things back on track again. But also mentally, I'm not going to be so frightened of making that sort of decision again, because in fact it wasn't that
It wasn't that bad after all.
I quite liked it, Steve. Well, I hope that's answered your
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I hope the next one's a little bit simpler. You've certainly done a lot of questions here, Steve. Were you up all night doing this?
No, not at all.
Were you? Bit of that candle burning. Right. Oh, this is a nice question. Which day of your life would you most like to relive? Well, that's an easy one because, as you know, I'm from Yorkshire. And a few years ago, we used to go out quite a lot just before I did Brookside because we found a lovely little cottage that we were renting. And we used to go to the stables. And one summer, it was the most fabulous summer where we had hot weather every day. We went on a day ride. This was myself and my daughter. And it was absolutely amazing because I've never ridden a day on a horse before. I mean, I don't know if any of you here are riders, but an hour is a long time on a horse, believe you me, an hour's a long time. And it was just so challenging, to do this physical thing, to feel, the animal and have that rapport, because I'm animal mad anyway, and I love horses, and to have that fabulous scenery around you. So it was, and also getting back to my roots, because it was like, that's where I'm from, and I still feel a very, very strong affinity with it, especially with the scenery and everything. So it was absolutely wonderful because my daughter was doing it as well. There was a big group of us, about 20 people, and we'd stop and we'd tie the horses up like they do in westerns, and you get your lunch off your saddle packed and have your lunch and a little picnic. It's so sweet, and that's the thing that I really love most. I mean, I don't like sophisticated restaurants, or I do, yes, but you know what I mean. I'm not mad about holidays abroad. I'm not mad about jet set travel. That to me was a perfect day because it was just simple, things that actually you can enjoy for free, apart from hiring a horse, which, isn't that expensive in Yorkshire. It's all free, and I think that's wonderful. So that's the day I'd like to have again.
Oh, maybe you could try it.
What?
Reorganising it.
But it never works the second time, does it? When you go back to things, they never work the second time. Right, what's this? Shall I put those back in, really? You eat them now.
I'll put them down there so you don't ask them again.
Oh, what is the most embarrassing thing in your wardrobe? That's a cheeky one, dear. Very cheeky. Well, I'm one of these people that tends to clear my wardrobe out if I haven't worn something for years. So if I do look at something and I think, I think that is, something that I've worn for a while, I'll throw it out. So I can't remember instantly, but I do. Oh, I'll tell you what I do. Tell you what I do have. When the shoulder pads were in, and Joan Collins was swanning around in Dynasty, I bought this incredible sort of jacket. It's like a knitted jacket with the biggest shoulder pads you've ever seen. They're like out here, look like an American footballer, and it's got fake snakes embroidered down the front. I should have brought it today, but I can't bring myself to throw it out because it is actually such an extraordinary garment. And believe it or not. Who or what has been your greatest inspiration? Quite a difficult one as well. Well, again, I'm going to go back into the past for this one because when I was at school, in fact, I remember the day quite clearly. There was a school trip from Bradford to Leeds where they had this production of Royal Hunt of the Sun. Does everybody know that play, the Peter Shaffer play? Brilliant day. And there was this marvellous leading character in it called Apple. And Robert Stevens, who now sadly is deceased, was playing it. And it just was one of those magic, theatrical moments. And I remember the day well because I'd actually been down to London to get... Am I boring you, Steve?
No, not at all. No, don't worry. No,
What was it? We're all going to start looking at Anyway, I'd been down to London to do, I think, my second audition for Romana. And then got back on the train, and it was just, again, one of those magical days, because I felt that the audition had gone very well. And then I was thinking on the way back, I wonder if I'm going to get in, And I thought, well, at least I've been, and I've done it, and I've tried, and I did my speeches, and I came back, and then I saw this wonderful play. And he was just brilliant. And I remember sitting there and thinking, well, whatever happens, if I don't get into RADA, I'll try somewhere else, or I'll go back into, you know, rep or do something like that. So that was one of the greatest inspirations I think I've had professionally, because he was just so brilliant. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, last one from the team.
Last one from the team. Oh, what is your middle names? And I don't have any. It's just Mary Tamm, so
Very easy.
I don't have any.
Okay.
It is easy.
Quick answer. Okay then, have we got any questions?
Yeah, don't be shy now. Oh, yes, gentleman in the baseball cap.
Can we have your thoughts about the late producer Graham Williams?
My thoughts about Graham. Well, he was very, very nice to me, I have to say, because he knew that I did have a little bit of a hard time to start with when I started on Doctor Who. I found Tom quite overpowering, and everyone was chuckling it. I mean, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and I was much younger, and very grieved. But he was very nice to me. But I did feel, my reservation with him was that he did actually let Tom get his own way all the time with whatever he wanted to do. I mean, there was a lot of script changing going on, and sometimes Tom would actually, I think, go too far with script changes. And Graham should have sort of stepped in and said, no, that's enough, you know, we can only do this because of this. So sometimes I think that was bad. And also, he used to end up directing it virtually, because all the directors were frightened of him. So they were all terrified of him, except Mike Hayes, who did the very last 6 episodes of the Peter Time series. Mike wasn't, but then Mike used to sit around in rehearsals telling jokes all the time, so he didn't really do me either. But I hope nobody's related to any of these people I'm running down here. But that was the only reservation, really. I mean, what did you feel about him? Do you think he was?
I think he's a good producer.
Yeah.
I think some of the best stories were.
I think so. Well, he was an intellectual. He was very much an intellectual, and he was. I think his background was quite academic. So I like that approach to the work, because I think one of the drawbacks of Doctor Who for me was that none of the stories were ever taken far enough, and there were so many other avenues that can be explored with time travel and that particular format that we did. That I don't know whether it's the writing or just the budget. You know, the BBC not having the budgets and what have you. But yes, I actually think he was a good.
It's the gothic quality that he had on some of his things.
Yes, he did, didn't he? Yeah. Well, you see, it's difficult for me to judge him against anybody else, because once I'd left, I didn't watch it. I saw a couple with Lala just out of curiosity, because I used to like Lala and I got on with it. But I mean, I've only met John Nathan Turner socially, and I haven't worked with him. I did a panto with before John once, which was quite an experience actually. I had such a good time on that. So yeah, I think he was okay actually.
On a similar note.
Oh, I haven't got my glasses on. Hang on. I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see you.
Sorry.
Have you got a question, right?
Yes, I say, so I have a similar note to that, but I wondered if we were mentioning Tom does tend to take over scenes, if he was doing that memorable moment, the Armageddon factor, where he rolled his eyes up and fluttered his eyelids at you when talking about the final bit of the key to time.
Oh yes, I remember that. But he was always doing that. No, by the end of it, actually, I used to just I just used to ignore him. I've learned that the best way to deal with him was just carry on regardless. We got on okay actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that he did have a little bit of friction with other people, but he and I got on okay on the whole. So I just, as I say, I just thought, well, let him get on with it, and I'll get on with what I'm doing. I'll do my own thing. But you can in that sort of program, you see. So it's quite interesting. Yes. Go at the back. Hi.
What do you think about nudity in a role?
What do I think about nudity in a role? Well, I have done nudity. I mean, in this memorable film that none of you have seen, Tales of Witness Madness, where I was chopped up, I did have a nude scene in the shower, where somebody then attacked me with an axe ready for the chopping. But that was very, very brief. And I don't know if any of you saw a program I did years ago called Girls with Slender Means. Yes, you did. Wasn't that a good show? Even though I was in it, and I'm not saying that because I was in it, but it was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you had to take their clothes off to get through the window. It was
That's
the thing.
right. Yeah, we were all. Did you all hear that?
Yeah.
I will explain this to you.
suddenly people are going to try and find.
Well, no, there aren't any copies of it. This is the thing, and it was fantastic because there was Miriam Margolyes in it, Patricia Hodge, myself,
Jack Shepherd.
Jack Shepherd.
Wycliffe, huh?
Yes, who's Wycliffe? Yeah, he was very good. Wonderful cast. Christopher Biggins, who's now Mr. Party Man, but very good actor. I still see Chris. That's answering one of your earlier questions. It's all going out now. But it was a story about these girls who lived in a girls' hostel. Was it just after the war?
Yeah.
Just before the war?
Well, I think it's after the war.
Yeah, just after the war. And there was a window that they used to get through for sunbathing on the roof. It's a Muriel Spark novel. If you haven't read it, actually, it's a brilliant book. Girls Who Slender Means it's called. So that was why we had to strip off. And in fact, it was very funny because one day, we were all quite young again. I think we were all in our early 20s. We realised that we were coming up to. We'd rehearsed in the studio, right? And we realised we were coming up to a nude scene. And on the last day, I think, when you have a television thing, you're in the rehearsal room, and on the last rehearsal day, you have a technical run-through for all the cameramen and soundmen and that sort of thing. So when we came to the technical run-through, and all the camera guys walked in, they were all naked to make us feel better about taking our clothes off in the studio. So, I mean, it was so hysterical because obviously we couldn't do any work at all. We were all going, woo-hoo! It did help. It did help. So by the time we got to the studio, in fact, in the studio, I think a couple of them, brave boys that they were, stripped down to their knickers, just to make us feel better about it. So that, I can tell you that doesn't happen very often, especially at the BBC. It doesn't happen very often, but it helped us all out enormously. But I don't think nudity is a big deal, actually. I mean, you always feel very nervous about it, obviously, but I think if it's there and it warrants it, what I don't like is that kind of gratuitous nudity that they seem to sort of get into things. And I think audiences feel the same. We've seen so much nudity now. I mean, how many naked men or women do you want to see? Don't answer that question. Right, any more questions? Yes, there's a gentleman right at the back there. Hello.
Hello. Can you still pronounce Romana's name?
Romana Dvaratnalunda.
Can you spell it?
No, I'm not very good at spelling. Well, I could if I wrote it down, but well, I'm sure you all know how to say it, really. I've said that for years. Oh. Yes, gentleman here. Hi.
Was there any particular script you found very difficult?
There was one, and I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the technical stuff, what Tom used to call bafflegab. You'd look at it and say, oh, God, look at the bafflegab. Yes, I think there was one, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it was just, I think it's that one where am I mending the console and the TARDIS at some point, or fiddling with it? Anyway, there's a lot of technical stuff with the TARDIS that I had to, about the vectors, and I remember vectors came out quite a lot. I don't think they were difficult to learn though.
Did you ever try and put post-it notes or the equivalent on various?
Because I can't see, doesn't it? I'll be going like this. Where did I put that post-it note? No, I can't. That doesn't help me. Anyway, I think that's a terrible thing to get into because if you start relying on that, then your memory really does give up because you start thinking, oh, well, I could just read it. But I did work with an actor, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I did work with an actor once who had boards literally this big behind the camera with the words written on them. And that is so distracting, I tell you. It's so
Sounds
distracting.
familiar.
It wasn't Marlon Brando, was it?
I wish it were, but Marlon has a little microphone, did you know that?
So someone reads in his room?
Yeah, and that's why everything sounds so hesitant, because he's actually listening to it all from through his ear. So I've been told, by very good authority, by Miriam Margolyes actually, who worked for me.
Would you ever return to Doctor Who in the future if it was rescheduled? I mean,
Would I
not so much.
return? Do you know, people have asked me this question before. I don't think I could return as Romana as I was, because I think that came to an end.
Because Jacqueline Hill didn't she, in one of the Peter Davison episodes?
Oh, did she?
Yeah, was it all the
No, that was Meglos. Tom Baker.
Oh, did she?
Yes.
And what did she return as then?
That's Lexa, the High Priestess, I think.
That wasn't her original character?
No, not the original character.
Oh yeah, well I think I would. I mean, if they let you do that, yeah, I would. I mean, I'd love to come back as a baddie or something. Yeah, I would actually. If it was well written and, the director was good, yeah, why not? I'd love to play the Doctor.
That's what. So if you was actually offered that, I mean, like this new business, there's a rumour going about there's going to be a female doctor.
Yes, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
They always talk about this female
But
Doctor.
if they actually offered it to you, would you do it?
Yeah, I think I probably would actually, because I think it's a wonderful part. Because somebody said to me once, and I didn't realise it at the time, but of course, as an actor, you're so constrained by, you know, the script, your other actors, even by the clothes you wear sometimes. Who are not Shakespeare, because they have to tell a story, and some of them better than others. But you know, the way they, I mean, Tom used to call it alchemy, and I won't use the four-letter word that he used, but he said it's like turning rubbish into gold. And this is what these actresses did when they came in, you know, and I really thought, wow, you know, they obviously were very experienced, and I really enjoyed working with them. And who was that other guy in The Power of Kroll, the funny guy? Welsh actor, you know what I mean?
Philip Maddox.
Oh, not Philip. He was great as well. And then Glyn Owen. Glyn Owen was very funny. He was great because we went on location to Woodbridge in Suffolk, which is a very pretty little place. And the location itself was pretty awful because we were up to our legs in swamp water all the time. But Glyn used to entertain us every night in the hotel because he was a wonderful singer. And then we'd nip down to this local wine bar. Oh, that's right, there was a local wine bar. Tom had a friend who ran this wine bar by coincidence, you know, near this location. And there was never anybody in there, so Glyn would just get up on the bar every night and start doing Rhinestone Cowboy at the top of his voice as we were consuming more and more wine. So he was great, actually. And he really cheered up a very uncomfortable location, you know, because he'd crack jokes all day long. Well, I don't think it came out with as much. It was mainly as in this what was that awful monster in that? What was it called? Kroll, of course. What Power of Kroll? Oops. Yes. Well, that was quite an interesting one. That was the least favourite, I think. I think that was my least favourite episode. Any more questions? Yes. Oh, you haven't.
Could you ask Steve what his favourite episode of Doctor Who is? His favourite story.
Well, I always have a very soft spot for the Stones of Blood.
Oh, do you?
Can't quite give you a reason why.
Really? Is it because of those megalithic stones?
Maybe.
Yeah,
That's
I
one I
did
have a
like
particular
those.
memory of.
Is it? Isn't that interesting? Well, I liked the idea of the stones, to be honest, but it was just that Megara thing which I couldn't get my head around. But you know, when you're involved in it, I think it was just the tediousness of the studio, and we were particularly cold on that one. I remember we all had little hot water bottles sewn to the inside of our costumes because it was so cold, and our feet were freezing. I was always in very sort of thin materials as well. You know, they never gave me a nice big fur coat, except in that first episode, and that was all in the studio, and I was sweltering in this fur coat. And then on the ones in the freezing locations in the middle of nowhere, they gave me all these cotton jumpers and things. It's just not fair. It's just not fair. And you were going to ask a question as well.
Oh, Gary wanted to know what was it like working with John Leeson in rehearsals?
Oh yes, with K9. John was great actually because we didn't realise, well I didn't realise until about halfway through the season that his contract was really just for the studio. He was contracted to do the voice of K9. But what he used to do was come into the studio with us and walk round on his hands and knees playing the doll into the rehearsal rooms, I mean. And it was wonderful because you actually would talk to John, or, you know, in your mind. I mean, I didn't even know what the dog would look like until I got to the studio. And when I first saw this metal thing, I thought, my God, am I meant to converse with this animal? But of course, in my mind was the mental picture of John doing his bit in the studio. So he was wonderful, actually. He was very, very helpful, very professional, and made a very fine dog, if I may say so.
Was it strange in The Power of Kroll to talk to John Leeson standing up? Because he wasn't the dog in Power of Kroll.
Did
I have a scene with him? Did I have a scene with him in that?
I thought so, yeah. He wasn't.
Can't remember that. Can't remember that at all. Well, it was so strange. I've just blanked it from my memory, honestly. Yes, that does come back to me now.
It's somewhere near the end where
But I don't think I actually had a lot to do with him, did I? It was just a couple of. Was it just a couple of little words?
I think so. I think it's
Yeah,
because
well,
he must have put you up for you standing up.
Obviously. Well, no, it didn't, because again, you know, because I can't see anything. I probably just superimposed the face of K9 onto him and thought, yes, he's really a standing dog. I'm sorry, no, it didn't put me off, obviously, because I can't remember. Sorry. Well, am I like... There's another question from the back there, hi?
Yeah, can I ask you about doing the assassination tonight?
Yes.
That was quite expensive series, wasn't it? All on film. And
It
you
was.
got to Spain, didn't you?
Yes, we did. That was a very, very, very nice job to do because it was a 3-part series. It was before the mini-series idea started, and I think it was really the first mini-series that had ever been done in Britain. BBC did it, and it was very expensive. We were filming in Spain, and there was a huge cast and crew. It was actually BBC Scotland that did it, and this was the one that Ken Hannum directed, who's an Australian film director, and he really knows what he's doing. He's such a good guy to work with. And we were out in Spain for, how long was it, 6 weeks, in Marbella. It was so nice. It was lovely, actually. And then we did about 2-3 weeks in Scotland. And I remember my overtime on that. My overtime was more than my fee. Those were the days, lovey. They don't pay you overtime anymore. And then the following year we did did everybody here see it, or do you know what we're talking about here, the assassination one? Yeah. Some of you do, some of you don't, so I'll just fill you in. I was playing the wife of a spy, and I was kidnapped in that one because the baddies wanted to get my spy husband back into spying for them. And then the following year we were in France again, which was fantastic. But the BBC by this time had done their budget and realised that they couldn't pay us more overtime than they paid us for actually doing our work. So they cut it right back, and we did, I think it was 3 weeks in France and 6 weeks in Scotland, all around Scotland. So, and then there was talk of a third one. Because, the writer, I think it was somebody called Jack Grierson. Yeah. He was a very sweet guy, and he'd written a whole series of books about this couple, you know, the spy with the wife. And there was another one noted, which we'd love to have done, but I think by that time they realised that they were spending too much money on it. Because they are expensive to do, and I don't think they've ever done anything quite as ambitious since, actually.
It's a shame, because it's a very good story, I think.
Oh, I know. Well, again, that's the other petition you could mount today. While you're all having your lunch, just run a couple of petitions up for people.
Did you enjoy doing that crime traveller series? I mean, I know
Oh,
you
yes.
did one episode.
Yeah, I was in one episode of that. That was a very short thing. It was a very short. I think I only did about 2 days, and it shot so quickly. I mean, that's what they do nowadays. You don't rehearse. Gone are the days when you'd have like 5 or 10 days rehearsal. So you get sort of plunged in, and you're straight into a scene, and you know, working with people you haven't even talked to. But I mean, that happens a lot anyway. But it seems to be much faster nowadays than it ever has been. But I thought it was all right. I mean, I wasn't that mad on the series, to be honest. I thought it was quite weak. The concept's good, but again,
It's a Doctor Who based thing, isn't it? It's just
It is
BBC
Doctor Who,
dancing around Doctor Who.
but it was the BBC.
As I'm saying, they're dancing around as opposed to actually just producing Doctor Who.
That's right. I
I
know.
mean,
I know. But it's strange. I don't understand why Doctor Who hasn't continued. Because when you get soaps like Coronation Street that have been going for 30 years now, you know, all these soaps that they do, all the programmes that have been long running. I know people enjoy them, and I know they're good, but why not have Doctor Who running as well? It doesn't seem logical. They've never ever come up with a satisfactory explanation as to why they actually won't do it anymore.
there was an episode of Crime Traveller where Michael French walked past Earth with his telephone box.
Oh, really?